which maybe will take a longer time. And you have to make sure that the people who are on the drug, like ivermectin, will be comparable to the population who are not on it for comparison purposes. So it's a little more complicated than
Yes.
seeing whether it can help in the treatment of people with COVID-19. So in fact, what we're doing is we're prioritizing on the treatment angle, not on the prevention. Because, well, first, we already have our minimum public health standards, and we don't want to give the impression, and which is already coming out from the media,
Yes, the false
or some
sense of
quarters,
security.
that it can
Yeah.
replace vaccination. They're two
Right.
different things. They're two different things. And vaccines are proven, not only for COVID-19, for other diseases. This one is not proven yet, at least for prevention. So we don't want to send a confusing message. We first look at the treatment, and then maybe we can look at the prevention side if the results are favorable.
Doc, I'd like to ask you about the study that came out around a week ago dun sa The Lancet. That's a study by, I think, 6 British, Americans, and Canadian researchers on whether or not airborne na nga or airborne all the while, yung COVID-19. And in that article in The Lancet, the researchers made a very, very strong push for revising existing health protocols just to make sure that we address the issue of whether or not COVID-19 is airborne. I'd like to ask you if you're satisfied with our existing protocols, because the health department says na okay na yung pagmamask at pag-face shield.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the idea that COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2, the virus causing the COVID-19, is airborne. It can be just through aerosol. That's already that's been known even before. It's just that we need confirmation from the big scientific groups based on big studies. But it was already a theorized and maybe thought of by most people. However, let's also bear in mind that it doesn't change what is currently being done. Whether it is droplet-borne or airborne, the same minimum public health standards will still follow. Although, I should say that because it has now shown increasing evidence, there's now increasing evidence to show that it is actually airborne, then all the more that we have to look at proper ventilation and air circulation in an enclosed space. Like I can cite that as examples, schools, offices, working places. Yes, because if it's airborne, that means it can circulate for long periods of time.
Yes, Doc.
Unless, droplet kasi, it drops to the ground.
Opo. But Doc, on a more practical scale po, for example, in schools, in workplaces, what should be in place in terms of ventilation? From a medical point of view, what kind of steps should be put in place to make sure that, in practical terms po, we understand what you're saying and we agree. Yung nga lang how do you operationalize it? What should we look out for? What should we watch out for? What should we put in place? Kumbaga.
Yeah. It's the proper ventilation standards, which the DOLE has been developing and will be releasing. It's being updated because you don't want it to happen that, of course, you're wearing face masks, face shields, but once you remove it, particularly if you're in a closed environment with family and if it's airborne, any person who left the room who might be getting the virus, even if it's no longer physically present in the room, may actually leave the virus there circulating for other people to enter and be potentially infected. That is the implication there. That is why I was saying that the proper ventilation, meaning adequate circulation of air with replacement of used air with fresh air should constantly be happening, so that if ever there's a virus there, it can actually go out and be replaced with new air that doesn't contain the virus. Okay. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. All the more that ventilation will be an important issue because it's the air currents, how air circulates in an enclosed room that will matter.
Dr. Montoya, from the
But we
structure...
still keep the minimum health standards, ha? That's based even the assumption that we are keeping those standards in place. Face mask, face shield, social distancing, washing of hands, all of this.
We understand, Doc. Well, actually, Doc, what I wanted to ask is whether we should upgrade the standards. The minimum health standards as it is should be the minimum nga, but I was wondering if we should raise the bar a bit more, considering na in the study, kasi it also mentioned that, for example, there were infections between adjacent rooms, not even the same rooms. There were infections between magkatabing kwarto. People who were not even in the same rooms got infected. And the virus traveled through air ducts in the case of caged animals.
Precisely.
So
That
there
is
were those.
why- Yeah, that is why the only way you can ensure that air is properly circulating and old air is being replaced by fresh air or new air. I should use the word "quote unquote" new, meaning it's not in the room for a long time. It's being replaced by a new air. Is to have a proper exhaust system. The problem is, I think, for those situations, they're actually sharing the same air.
Nililipat lang.
Basically, that's what it means. Because how can it possibly go to the other room if it doesn't share the same air duct? And there's no exhaust. That's my assumption there. Because if there's an exhaust, it's not supposed to go to the other room. It's supposed to go out.
Dr. Montoya, from the structures surrounding us to the superstructure and the infrastructure and the larger ecosystem in the Philippines, one of the exciting things that came up is news that we're looking at manufacturing vaccines here in the country. I'm just wondering, from an infrastructure standpoint and the ecosystem standpoint, where are we starting? The Philippines, what do we have right now? Ano po ba yung baseline natin ngayon when it comes to our capacity to produce our own vaccines?
Well, we have been discussing that and reviewing it, updating our plans for local manufacturing of vaccines in cooperation with the DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, DOH, even with the National Development Company. The current status is that there are already local companies in negotiation. That's for the medium and the long term. For the medium term, there are already interested companies that will be licensing or getting the license to manufacture certain vaccines from the vaccine developers for a fill and finish facility. That means the bulk antigen or the materials will be sent to us and we put it in its
Assembly lang tayo,
packaging.
kumbaga. Assembly lang tayo, kumbaga.
Yes, that's the medium term. But most vaccines will start that way. They start with the fill and finish, and then when they perfected that, they will now go to the earlier stages of development. However, I should say that we also have local companies that are going to invest from the very beginning. Now, how will this happen? In partnership with foreign vaccine developers, they're actually transferring, quote unquote, transferring whole operations to the country. But that's still subject to negotiation. In fact, I was saying, we want this to prosper, but I just want to say that these talks are actually ongoing, and it won't be surprising that some of them, they actually end up going for the long term, meaning it's not just fill and finish, but also for manufacturing the ingredients up to marketing and distribution.
Actually, Doc, we really do need to have that done, especially because I think the consensus is we will probably need boosters annually, and we will probably be repeating
And not only that,
vaccination.
This may not be the only pandemic.
Well,
This may
that's
not be the
also
only
true.
pandemic
Yes.
that we're facing.
But, right. But in the short term especially because syempre, hindi naman pwedeng libre na naman yung mga booster, di ba? So we're just going to have to find a way to bring down the price of it. I mean, I would imagine.
Precisely.
I mean,
And
that's
most
how compelling
importantly,
it is. Yeah.
if we're self-reliant as far as vaccines is concerned, I'm not talking of just COVID-19. We're talking of vaccines, even other vaccines for polio, measles, all of these are part of the expanded program of immunization. If we have some degree of vaccine self-sufficiency, we will not be dependent on the global supply, which is happening now.
All right.
Okay. Dr. Jaime Montoya of the DOST Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Maraming salamat po, Dr. Montoya.
Thank you, Doc.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
you
Doc.
very much
Always a
for this
pleasure to have you.
opportunity. Again, good evening.
We need to take a break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. We are now in the final stage of our conversation. Now joining us is Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade, spokesperson of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or the NTC-ELCAC. Good evening, General Parlade.
Hi, good evening, Ed.
General.
Hi, sir.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, kanina kausap ko na si General sa big story. I wanna pick up where we left off, General. Kasi
Yeah.
obviously pinag-uusapan natin si AP noon, yung initiative niya for the Maginhawa Community Pantry. And kanina nga po, like you said, I won't lead off on red tagging. I know you don't like that term. And you said din, yung profiling, let's qualify that. Sinilip namin, pero hindi profiling yon. But what I wanted to lead off was yung conversation natin kanina because sabi nyo nga, napakaliit na magandang idea, pagkatapos maya-maya kung saan-saan na nagsusulputan sa iba-ibang sulok ng bansa. And from that, you said maraming mga katanungan and I asked you, bakit hindi ganun kasimple ang kwento, General? Why can't it be as simple as the way the majority, or at least the majority of people I know, are just thinking, this is a good person who wanted to do good. People saw the good idea, wanted to do good also. Why can't the story be that simple?
Toby, we already know how the CPP works. Okay, I'll start there. And I'm not saying na lahat itong nag-organize nitong community pantry are part of that organization, but very, yung deception nila, yung mga pamamaraan nila ay alam na natin eh. Sabi ko nga kanina, ang dami actually na nagpo-post sa amin. Sir, please take a look at this community pantry dito sa aming lugar. Ba't sila mayroong mga nakapaskil na ganito? May picture sila and then pinadala sa amin. Nasa social media, napakadaming nagpo-post ngayon sa social media. So like I said, wala naman sanang problema yan. In fact, it's a very, very good program. Dapat nga tularan yan ng iba pa, ng marami pa. Mga donors, kung merong sobra, ipamigay. We've been doing that, Toby. In Lucena, we've done that. Last year pa eh. Nagko-contribute yung mga sundalo natin ng mess allowance nila for a day or two para ibigay dun sa mga mahihirap na communities through the local government executives, mga barangay officials, and some other organizations. So wala namang problema. Binanggit ko rin kanina yung tungkol dito sa MGCI, ang dating daan, yung free food program nila, mga free grocery nila, mga damit pa nga. So wala namang issue. So ito lang kasi maraming nag-post dito sa social media sa atin, in-alert kami. Kami ang in-alert ng mga netizens, Toby. Sabi nila, sir, pakitingnan ito. Kasi itong taong ito, I don't know her, personally, I don't know her. Ang sabi, ang dami ng mga nag-text at nagpadala ng message, ito yung kausap ni Chad Book. Sabi nila, ito yung mga ano nila sa Alcadev, ito yung background nito siguro, sir, ganun. That is why medyo na-alarma tayo. And then tiningnan natin kung mayroong connection itong mga nagsusulputan na ito sa buong Pilipinas. Kasi like I said, 14 nagsimula yan, April 14. In a matter of days, like 16, 17, 18, napakadami na buong Pilipinas. At iisa ang theme. Parang nakapackage, parang iisa yung strategy. So as the National Task Force ELCAC, we really have to be careful and watchful with this. Kaya, siyempre, dapat tingnan natin kung ano itong organisasyon na ito or individuals
Sir,
Kumbaga
linawin ko lang po, ano po yung tema na sinasabi niyong pare-pareho?
Magbigay ng makeup, magbigay ng ayon sa kakayahan at
Yes,
kumuha ng batay sa pangangailangan. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, wala naman talagang problema yon. But what it's saying is that parang may template. Merong isang post dyan, I love CPP NPA. And
No, sir, okay.
pinapakita,
Sir, matigil ko lang kayo
tapusin
dyan.
ko lang.
Yeah, okay.
Meron kasing pinapakita ng mga pictures ng community pantry, but yung CPP NPA, yun na yun. Community Pantry Philippines, and I forgot the NPA, but it's an
The National Pantry Association. The National Pantry Association.
Napaka-simple nung kanilang propaganda dito sa social media. So, although the intention may be good, maraming nakikisawsaw. Sabi ko
Yun, I think that's the word, no? Because
Yes.
it obvious naman na may sumasakay. Okay?
Yes.
Pero si AP mismo, I mean si Ana Patricia noon mismo, nire-rentag nyo ba siya, sir?
No.
Siya mismo?
Hindi. At saka hindi
Kasi
kami
yan ang
nagre-red
fear
tag.
niya eh. Yan ang fear
Yes.
niya, no? Na parang nire-red tag nga siya, no? At parang may allegation, that's her word, na meron siyang, hindi man niya sinabi, pero may agenda siyang ganun. Just to clear the air, sir. Ano ba?
Luchi, again, hindi kami nagre-red tag, Hindi kami nagre-red tag. Hindi namin ang ginagamit ang term na yan dahil hindi namin yan, hindi kami naniniwala dyan. One. Secondly, palagi na namin ini-explain yan na hindi kami ang nagre-red tag. Kung hindi, sila din ang kumukulay sa sarili nila through their websites, through their mga slogans nila. Sila rin yun. What we're doing is just identifying people who are aligned with the red because of their color, because of the way they talk, because of the way they walk. Yun.
Sir, linawin ko lang po kasi when you say that you...
I'd like to ask lang kasi, may bilagit kasi kayo kanina na in a matter of days, napakarami ng mga nagsulputan
Yes.
since April 14, tapos iisa yung team. And when you were asked about the team, sabi nyo, you confirm na it's yung magbigay ng ayon sa kakayahan at kumuha ng ayon sa kinakailangan. How is that bad? How is it bad na in a matter of days, dumami itong mga to? Are you saying this is a coordinated conspiracy? And even if it was a grand conspiracy of people to help out, assuming that is, what would be wrong with that?
Nothing, except that yung sinabi ko kanina. May mga nakapaskil doon sa kanilang mga kariton, doon sa mga kanilang mga tolda, may mga nakapaskil na anti-government.
But sir, isn't
But
that
sir,
right as well?
but sir, let me
Isn't that
carry it.
right?
No, let us carry it to that point. Let's say meron naman talaga gumagawa, and then kasama diyan, kaakibat diyan yung konteksto. Palpak kasi gobyerno eh. Hindi kasi wala tumutulong sa amin eh. So kami na lang. And so therefore pag-isipan niyo itong gobyerno niyo. Let's say we carry it there and that has become the context. The question remains, what's wrong with that?
Ako, personally, nothing, except kung ang direksyon nito ay violence. Alam mo, that's why we are careful. Gusto naming alamin kung sino ang nagpapatakbo nito because kung CPP na ang nag-hijack nitong magandang programang ito, then we have a problem. And we don't want that problem to deteriorate further. Mas mahirap na kung malaki na yung problema at saka ka-aaksyon.
But
Yun
how do
yun,
you
yun lang
how
yun.
do you
But-
know general na papuntang violence to? And I ask because ang concern ng mga tao is, you know, the cure might be worse than the threat that you perceive. Because, you know, you're working on a theory which hasn't come to pass na paano kung papunta pala to sa dahas, di ba? And so you want to head it off. Pero sa kakatanong nyo yun, you have to sinisilip nyo, and you've said it on record, tiningnan namin yung profile ng mga tao, tinitingnan namin sino-sino ang, kanino sila associated, sino mga friends nila, sino friends of friends. And that creates a chilling effect to the point, in fact, that AP noon, despite the fact that you're saying she has nothing to fear, she's a good person, and so on, despite that, napilitan siyang tumigil ngayon.
So bakit siya tumigil kung wala siyang kinatatakutan?
Well,
Pero
sir, ang sabi niya,
Well,
sir, in her press con kanina, she came out outright with it. It's the fear of violence against her and her
Narrative
people.
nila yan.
So,
It's always their narrative. Ganyan sila palagi. Alam mo,
Sir, are
yan,
we talking
nakikinig
about,
ba tayo
Miss
dun sa Supreme Court, yung anti-terror law petitions, yan yung narrative nila eh. Palagi nilang sinasabi, this red tagging endangers people's life. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, no, there's no such thing. Walang nangyaring ganun. So, palagi na lang yan sinasabi nila. So, I guess there's an agenda. Kung yan ang i-raise nyo,
Actually, sir, I think we have to qualify that. The Supreme Court never said that. In fact, the Supreme Court, in its latest circulars, were really concerned even about how red tagging is affecting lawyers.
Well, meron kaming papel eh. Meron kami sa National Task Force Legal Cooperation Cluster. Merong ruling ang Supreme Court. That's why we're raising this. But again, ito yung defense na palagi nating naririnig sa kanila. Ayan, red tagging, you are endangering my life. So, ano yun? Alam na natin yung narrative na yan eh. Kaya nga kami nagtataka bakit suddenly ang bilis nung pag-propagate nung programang yan, and suddenly nung pinasara may media pa, talagang may press con pa, talagang well orchestrated.
sir, aren't you working
Sir,
on the
I take
presumption of
exception
guilt
to
already?
that. Okay, let me take exception to that. Okay, I'll just make me and probably even Roby an example. No, the first time we saw it on Facebook, talagang pinano ko na magtayo ng ganon. And I really mean this. So I disagree with you that this looked like a conspiracy, an orchestrated thing. Because, I mean, if I felt that way, I'm sure so many others felt the same way. And secondly, let's not discount the fact that, yes, of course, people with agenda will probably use it as they probably have, no? But I go back to Ana Patricia herself first, the one who originated it, di ba? When you say yan, lagi nilang palusot, parang in effect may dating, sir, na palusot nga niya yun. No? Meaning, lumulusot siya actually talagang part of the conspiracy. So, tapos kami namang media, sinasakyan namin, sir, parang I take exception to that. And then secondly, sir, setting aside the legal stuff about red tagging, not really red tagging. So, pag tinawagan ka ng pulis at hinihingi di ba? At hinihingi may pag pinuntahan ka doon, kung ako man si AP noon, sir, walang galang na, sir. Matatakot din ako. Pero hindi ako komunista, di ba? Yun lang ang punto ko, sir. So, I think you ought to know that even though there's no such thing legally as red tagging, the fact is, natatakot ang mga tao na ma-red tag. For lack of a better term. I'm sure you recognize this.
Yeah, but sabi ko nga, Luchi, kung wala ka namang dapat ikatakot, bakit ka matakot na tinawagan ng pulis o linapitan ka or chinek yung position pwesto mo doon? Baka nagtanong pa yung pulis, ikaw ba ay merong barangay clearance? O ikaw ba ay nagpaalam ka ba sa munisipyo? What's wrong with that? So, bakit ka matatakot kung wala kang masamang ginagawa? Sabi ko nga doon sa Matyaga Street, Meron din ganun. Pinuntahan din ng pulis. Bakit hindi natatakot? Ang dami nun. Meron sa pinamalayan, pinapuntahan namin. Chinyek, kung ano ginagawa, hindi naman natatakot. But what you're saying is, natatakot kayo, of course, because that's the narrative that you've been hearing. Ito, yung chilling effect na yan, hindi ko yan talagang yan ang palaging ini-insist. I really don't know what is that chilling effect. Ikaw, makakaramdam ka ng ganyan kung meron kang kinatatakot.
Hindi rin po yun.
Sir, but conversely, it can be argued that why is government afraid of people who put up community pantries? What is there to be afraid of? If
Babalik ako
there's
doon.
nothing illegal being done, so long as they can say whatever they want, they can post any poster that they want, so long as it does not violate the law. What does government have to be afraid of when it comes to people who come out voluntarily and make donations?
Okay. Kanina binanggit ko yon. It's not as simple as that, you know. Yung again, yung meron akong binanggit doon, yung donations, donations. Grabe, alam mo ba na tumagal itong insurgency na ito because of the donation, foreign donations. You think that the mining companies contributed so much for this insurgency, yung mga extortion na yan? Hindi, napakaliit lang. Bilyon ang nakukuha nila from foreign donors, from organizations, from church-based organizations, even from foreign countries. Because of this style, ito strategy nila ito. Kanina, kinuwento ko rin yung Panday Bulig, after the Typhoon Pablo, yung Yolanda. Ang dami niyan. There's this network, Community Empowerment Resource Network. And you know, they're so widespread dito sa Pilipinas, and they are earning so much, 6 billion in 2011, a year, 2011. 2011 lang yun.
Well,
So
sir,
what I'm saying
we
is,
won't contest your figure, sir. But we're talking about community pantries here. Yung mga pagkain na binabagsak sa isang lamesa at pinamimigay rin sa lamesang yun. Well, marami nakapila. I don't know how we can draw the connection between what you're saying na billions of pesos or dollars being donated to the insurgency versus yung community pantries po. Quite simply, how do we make the connection?
Again, sinasabi ko nga na malalim sila. Napakalalim nila. Kung ang tingin natin, napakasimple lang silang gumalaw, well, talagang talo tayo pag gano'n. But again, what I'm saying is that we just want to be careful, we just want to be watchful. We want to make sure na yung mga galaw nila ay nababantayan natin para wala nang masyadong problema later on. What if again, dumami na naman yung mga funding because of this. Sabi nga natin, napakagandang programa. Ako, honestly, I agree. It's a very, very good program. And like I said, we've been doing that. We've been helping a lot of people with that kind of program. But bakit nga nagiging controversial ito? Because of the background of some people organizing this kind of activities. So yun lang. Okay, if we are able to prove na wala naman talagang problema, then that's it. No problem. Sabi ko nga, kahit na kami, tutulong kami, tatabihan pa namin yung bangketa nyo at dadagdagan pa natin yung goods na ipinamimigay natin.
General, gusto ko rin pong balikan yung punto nyo. No? Kung wala ka namang kinakatakutan, ba't ka matatakot? Diba? Kung tinitingnan ng NTF-ELCAC yung Facebook profile mo, ba't ka matatakot? And kung wala, your argument is, kung wala ka namang ginagawa, walang mangyayari sa'yo. But I think a lot of people genuinely, pasensya na po, really don't have confidence in the intelligence community and the intelligence work of this government, of the NTF-ELCAC in particular. Pasensya na, Gretch, I'll have to mention this, but my co-anchor, Gretchen Ho, was red-tagged. And at the, nakasama siya sa Matrix, and so kanina we were talking about AP noon, and she was saying, I can understand how scary it is, because remember, I was included in the Matrix. And then nung pinaliwanag sa akin, paano ako nasali dyan? It was really as simple as that. Because sa Facebook page lumalabas, friend niya pala itong ibang tao. That's why people are afraid. And that's why even when you say that, hindi, tinignan lang naman namin yung Facebook page, people are really worried because it's so easy to get led down the wrong conclusions. That's why it has a chilling effect.
Yes, but hindi naman perfect yung ating organization. Palagi naman natin sinasabi ito slowly, we are learning a lot from all these experiences. And we want to be better, especially with our intelligence. Part ito lahat ng ating etong learning curve dito sa trabahong ito. Ngayon lang tayo naging ganito. After so many years, ngayon lang naging ganito ang gobyerno. So, pagbigyan natin yung gobyerno para ayusin nila lalo yung trabaho nila by engaging in this kind of discussions, in this kind of open discussions on these controversial issues.
Okay.
Hindi naman
That's
hindi
fair
naman
enough.
namin sinasabi
Sir,
I think that's sir. I think that's fair. Sorry, Lucha. Quick lang. I think that's fair. Here's a starting point. The National Privacy Commission says you cannot do it the way you're doing it. The National Privacy Commission says if you're going to be looking into anybody's profile, it has to be transparent. It has to be compliant with our privacy laws. That's a starting point. Would you consider that?
I don't know exactly what the National Privacy Commission is saying. Baka man naman out of context naman. Honestly, hindi ko naman nabasa talaga yung IRR nitong na ito. So I don't want to comment on that. I don't know. Aralin ko. Maybe next time I'll give you my opinion.
But sir, I mean, again, I'm sorry to beg the point, diba? But when the spokesperson of the NTF-ELCAC says that I have to be honest with you, I haven't even read the IRR of our laws pertaining to privacy, it doesn't really spur confidence on the part of our citizens that these are the people looking through even my Facebook page.
I mean, I've not read the entire IRR. I know some of the provisions of the Privacy Act, but I haven't memorized the entire thing, you know. Mahirap magsabi tapos naalala mo yung Senate inquiry. Ito lang binabanggit I'm sorry, babanggitin ko si Senator Lacson. Ito lang binabanggit niya. What about the other provisions of the law? Hindi sinasama doon eh. Kaya nagkakagulo-gulo eh. So, with that, ayaw kong mag-comment kung hindi ko naman nabasa yung entirety nung provisions ng batas na yan. So, doon lang muna ako. But of course, I respect the privacy of our citizens. Nasa gobyerno kami. Dapat alam namin yan. Of course. But doon na rin tayo nagkakawendang-wendang because of that. Can you imagine hanggang ngayon wala nga tayong ID system? Why? Because of that privacy issue. Hanggang ngayon, may problema tayo sa pandemic, hindi natin ma-address ng maayos. Why? Kasi walang ID hindi natin ma-check kung anong ID ang gagamitin dito sa ating mga kababayan. So, we cannot even count the number of citizens we have right now. Yung population natin, hindi natin maintindihan. So, ito yun, because of that privacy.
But how much intelligence work is required to determine whether a simple community pantry is it's part of it.
Luchi,
Sir, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
at some point you find it ludicrous na di ba? Kasi
Yes.
parang, how in the world can this be a communist thing? You know? I mean, so parang, ang sa akin lang, sir, parang, couldn't you have nipped it in the bud?
By what?
At the outset.
By what?
Did it take kunyari nung naglabas siya, 'di ba? Ano ba namang sabihin niyo kaagad? There is nothing wrong with this community pantry.
Yeah.
This is not part of our investigation in anything at all. This is not blah blah. I mean, kaano katagal naman malaman yun, sir? Na hindi naman to konektado sa CPP. If at all, sinasakyan lang din nila, di ba? And we had a story on that earlier in Frontline na namimigay sila ng mga flyer to join the May 1 rally. No? Okay. But so sinasakyan, yes. But to say that you have to look into this because it might be a concerted effort orchestrated by, I mean, sir, di ba? Para sa akin naman, native intelligence lang naman will tell you na.
Sorry Luchi, hindi ako part ng Intel community, ano? Hindi ako part ng Intel community, spokesperson lang ako. And I cannot, kahit na spokesperson ako, hindi ako pwedeng manghula kung gaano kagaling o gaano kahina ang ating intelligence. Hayaan natin sila until such time na meron silang sinabi sa amin na ganito nga. And then siguro meron kaming masasabing mas maganda. But right now, what we're saying is we just want to be careful, be very careful. In fact, Yun yung isang text ko dun sa grupo. Let's be careful about these organizations kasi nakakatulong sila sa mamamayan. Alamin lang natin kung ano ba yung agenda nila and be sure na kung sakali patitigilin, sabi nga namin doon sa be sure na kung patitigilin natin yan because of their agenda na malinaw na, meron kang kapalit. Di ba? Dapat may programang kapalit kasi yan yung hinain nila eh. Baka nga talagang nagkukulang ang response ng gobyerno, eto sila nagvo-volunteer. So pero kung patitigilin natin dahil meron tayong nakikitang ibang agenda, we have to make sure na meron tayong pangpalit na programa. And by the way, sabi ko nga,
Pero sir, can you stop?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Pero can you stop this just on the basis of their supposed agenda? I mean, can you stop people from distributing goods or food just on the basis of their perceived agenda?
No, sabi ko nga hindi. We will even support it. But yung propaganda nila, patitigil natin. Hindi po pwede yon. Ina-agitate yung tao hanggang may mga oust Duterte pa or I don't know. Hindi mo nga alam kung saan ito dadalhin. But eto na yon. Meron ka nang nakikita. Meron ng mga pinopost ang mga netizens natin sa mga nakikita kung anong nangyayari sa ibang lugar.
Again, sir, we have to say, and this is not a question. Anybody can say oust Duterte. Anybody can say hashtag Duterte palpak. Anybody can say walang ginagawa itong gobyerno. It is, as you yourself acknowledge, there's nothing illegal about it. But I want to go back to yung question ni Luchi about AP noon because it really is, what's ironic is this all started with the story of one young woman who was idealistic, wanted. And kanina nag-press conference siya. She doesn't seem like the person who wants attention. We've been trying to get her here, frankly, and we completely understand if she doesn't want to show up on television. But she did say kanina doon sa is, gusto ko lang naman ganito eh. Why do I even have to expend even an ounce of energy explaining to anyone kung sino ko, kung sino mga kaibigan ko, why do I even have to explain kung anong motibo ko? Nakalagay nga dyan, ito nga yung ginawa ko, may picture sa Facebook. I mean, it's that na hindi maintindihan ng mga tao. Why does anybody even have to explain what they're trying to do when parang lantaran naman, hello, gusto kong tumulong?
Alam mo ba, isang tao lang yan, di ba? Isang tao lang, si Ana, si Patricia, di ba? Same with Satan. Si Satan, binigyan ng apple si Eve. Doon lang nagsimula yon. See?
Ang layo naman ng example mo.
Let me put it this way, sir.
Seriously, sir, I have to.
Specifically about AP noon eh. We're talking specifically about AP noon. What is it about her that you find suspiciously wrong? Nabanggit niyo po kasi kanina, biglang dumaming community pantries, may common theme, tapos yung iba may nakapaskill criticizing yung gobyerno. Maliban dito po, is there anything else that pins her down as part of a grand conspiracy to oust the government?
No, sabi ko nga, Ed, sabi ko nga sa inyo, I have nothing against Ana. I have nothing against her. In fact, maganda yung ginagawa niya. I agree with what she's doing.
Pero sir, that flies against everything that you said just a few minutes ago. Eh. You kept saying that's what you think. That's what you think. When Roby was talking about Miss Non just doing this off the cuff.
And yung sinasabi niyong...
There's the Satan parallel. And several times in this interview, you've alluded to something else that we are wondering about. Baka you'd like to talk about it.
Yes, but I'm not referring to her. I'm referring to the big organization that may be at the back of all this. That's what we were saying. That's what I was saying. Sabi ko nga sa iyo, I have nothing against her. At the beginning of this interview, I told you, I have nothing against her.
Yeah.
But yan yung gusto naming malaman. Yan ang bakit suddenly ang bilis nitong dumami, bakit isa yung team nila. So, we really don't know. I really don't know. I'm not part of the intel, but I'm just a spokesperson.
But sir, let me get to kanina, let's say, gaya nga nasabi natin, nag-umpisa tayo kay Ana and her story. And I think yung patutunguhan nito is yung tanong ng mga tao, ano mangyayari sa mga community pantry? And you were saying, hindi ko maintindihan, ano ba pinagsasabi niyo about chilling effect? Ano ba ibig sabihin niya? Ano ba gusto niyo palabasin sa chilling effect? Let's take the future of community pantries as an example. There are a lot of people who wanted to watch. It was not supposed to be a press conference. It was supposed to be a webinar to teach other people how to set up a community pantry. There are people watching right now who are curious. They, just like Luchi, I mean, honestly, even just like my wife, biglang naiisip nila, uy, ako rin kaya mag-community pantry. But I can imagine a lot of people watching right now, listening to you, sir, and then saying, wag na lang. Eh, kung ganito pa lang tatanungin sa akin, wag na lang. Yun po ang ibig sabihin ng chilling effect.
Yeah.
Ewan ko lang, ha? Ewan ko lang. Pero,
and it's not even because, we might be viewed as left, no? Pero parang, kumbaga, parang ano ba to, pinapahirapan nyo naman kami. Ganun na lang, sir. So in effect, you're discouraging, efforts that are supposed to just really be out of love for neighbor. I mean, what's wrong with that?
No, those are your words. I'm not discouraging. Ang sinasabi ko nga susuportahan pa namin kung merong ibang organization na maggagawa ng ganito dahil matagal na naming sinusuportahan ang mga organisasyon na gumagawa ito in the past, last year. Kaya lang, ang sinasabi natin, dapat careful din tayo. Now, going back to what you're asking me, susuportahan namin o dapat bang matakot sila? Again, hindi. Patitigil ba natin yung ibang community pantry? Again, hindi. Why? Kasi hindi naman, kung wala ka namang intensyon na masama, bakit ka nga matatakot? Maybe of the 40 na community pantries na naglitawan dyan, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 lang ang dapat na bantayan. Kung gusto yung the rest, let it be.
Sir, alin po doon? Sir, alin po doon? Doon sa 40, alin po doon yung 2 o 3 doon sa 40?
Wag mo namang pilitin akong sabihin pa.
No, but sir, I hope you understand. I'm trying to make a point.
Again, yan ang gusto niyong mangyari na magkamali ang AFP, ang NTF-ELCAC na magbanggit ng mga pangalan, then bibirahin nyo ng intelligence, ng bad intelligence. I'm telling you, we're doing our job. Yung due diligence, kailangan gawin natin yon. What we're saying is, there's a pattern, and I hope it's not, at hindi namin alam kung saan ang direksyon nito. That's what we're saying. We just have to be careful kasi pag pumalpa kami rito at parang pag naging what happens kung talagang gutom yung tao and then rinansak na yung mga grocery, rinansak na yung mga tindahan. So sinong sisisihin nyo, di ba, gobyerno? So we have to be very, very careful also in we want to make sure na yung tamang tao lang ang binabantayan or grupo ang binabantayan. The rest na willing tumulong. And this is my challenge to you guys. Okay, eto, challenge ko sa inyo. Conduct a survey now after this interview. Mag-interview kayo or magpa-survey kayo kung ilan ang gustong magtayo ng pantry. I'm telling you, baka 1,000 dyan pwedeng kung walang ikinatatakot. Pero yung mga sinasabi mong chilling effect, baka 5, 10, 6, 20. Why? Kasi talaga namang matatakot sila magtayo kasi meron silang connection sa underground. I'm telling you that. You can okay. I can challenge you now.
Let's take
your survey now.
Papa, we're running out of time po. Let's round it back to our original example. Nung ginawa to ni AP noon, people were inspired, they wanted to do it. Tapos kanina, ngayong araw na to, sabi ni Ana Patricia noon, kailangan muna akong tumigil kasi ako natatakot. So people are looking at her as an example. People are empathizing with her. Without conducting that survey that you're asking for, do you expect that Ana, who over the past 4 days has had the loudest voice and the biggest profile in this country, will be held as an example again by the people watching her and saying that if Ana Patricia noon feels intimidated and harassed and afraid, ako na rin, baka yan na rin ang mararamdaman ko.
Okay, hypothetical. What if tomorrow we're able to say, eto si Ana, eto yung background niya, eto yung participation niya in the past, eto yung participation niya dun sa mga organization na ito, eto yung membership niya dito sa organization na ito. And then, ngayon, alam na ng mga tao, so ganun pala si Ana. Do you think that's going to be the same response dito sa mga taong ito? Magagalit ba sila? Of course, baka matuwa pa sila dahil nilantad ng gobyerno kung ano si Ana. But we are not saying na ganon si Ana. What we're saying is, we are studying this carefully para wala namang dapat na kung wala ka namang kasalanan bakit? So, going back to your question, balik ako dun sa sagot ko. Wala naman talagang problema dun sa ginagawa ni Ana. But it's our job to inform the people kung ano ang totoong background ng mga taong ito. And right now, I cannot tell you specifically, pinipilit mo ko kanina, pero talagang wala naman akong pwedeng isabi sa inyo sa ngayon kung sino yung 3 na yan or 4. Maybe tomorrow, pwede kong sabihin. And then maybe tomorrow we can explain to the people why we are acting like this, why our response on Ana is like this. I'll tell you maybe tomorrow. Huwag tayong maniwala dun sa tao, payak-iyak pa yung tao, drama pa, kung ano-ano. I'm not saying na sinadya niya yun, but from the little knowledge that I know of Ana, kaya niyang gawin yun kasi member siya ng ganito. So, yun lang muna sasabihin ko sa inyo.
Okay. You just threw us for a loop. Akala namin patapos na tong episode na to, and I thought you were very clear. I thought you were very clear kanina.
Parang loaded, sir, yung last line nyo, ha?
Really,
Loaded yun.
Yeah, may utang sa iyo.
Sir, your last line is not hypothetical anymore, no?
Sorry?
Your last line was no longer hypothetical.
No, hypothetical yun. But what if it's true?
Huh?
Parang,
Yes, sir.
kasi
That was
meron
not
kayong, yan muna ang sasabihin ko sa inyo. You said that. That's what you
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
So, ibig sabihin, you have other information.
Because, sir, unfortunately, you've said 2 things right now in the show. You said 2 things. One, you were very categorical. She has nothing to worry about. You said, supportahan ko pa nga yung ano niya. And then you end the show. You end the show by throwing out, really, if it's not a hypothetical, at the very least, it's innuendo.
Yes, because we want to make sure. I want to make sure with what I'm saying here. That's why I cannot
Sir,
throw
but
anything there.
if you want to
that I
make
might
sure,
know.
why did you pass off innuendo?
No, kasama yun dun sa, intel, sa proseso ng intelligence, kasama yun. You have to consider this and that, and then you make your own conclusion, and then you reprocess that. You consider a lot of things, a lot of other factors, and then i-confirm mo kung tama pa rin ba.
Okay.
Mahabang proseso yan,
Okay.
Ted.
Okay, General Parlade, I don't think I've ever said this as sincerely. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. But so I say that with all sincerity. Obviously, General, we'll have to have you back at some
maybe
point.
Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow to have this conversation. But in the meantime, we do thank you, sir, for taking your time.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Salamat po.
Salamat.
That's all for this special edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to everyone, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Roby Alampay.
I'm Luchi Cruz-Valdes of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News.